will try to not reference Bohemian Rhapsody as much as I can, but it might happen at least once. Hey, it's Zadie and you're watching Flytte Kartina. For those of you who are new here, I do trailer reactions, spoiler rants, non-spoiler movie reviews, and then I do like random Thursday rants where I just talk about something that's on my mind relating to movies. Today we're going to be reviewing, without giving away any spoilers, Rocketman, which features Taron Egerton as Elton John. There are two halves to this review. The first half is dedicated to the rating of the movie and how it was rated that way and why it was rated that way, and then I will rate it. And then the second half is dedicated to me giving my non-spoiler thoughts about the movie without spoiling anything about the plot. This movie, directed by Dexter Fletcher, was rated by the MPAA-R for language throughout, some drug use, and sexual content. Seeing as this is an R-rated movie, I'm going to say that it is pretty R-rated for language-wise. They don't have any limits on what words they can and cannot use, or the frequency of how many words that they can use. And so it's just kind of free reign for language. For the drug use, there's a lot of it because it's the 70s, 80s where drugs were at its all-time high and everybody was using them. There's a lot of graphic images relating to drugs, and from anything from pills to smoking to powder, so just if you're triggered by that sort of thing, it might not be a good idea for you to go see this movie without somebody else who can keep you accountable. And then for the sexual content, this is an R-rated movie, so there's not really a whole lot of restraint on the sexual content side of it. What happens in this movie stays in the movie, and I'm not spoiling anything, but there's one very long, maybe 2-minute scene where two people are having relations with one another, and it doesn't show a whole lot. It just shows the regular R-rated stuff that happens where the two are getting undressed. Since Elton John practices homosexuality, that's most of the relationships that he has between people. There's a few kissing scenes and then that one scene that I mentioned, and that's pretty much most of what I can remember from what was shown on screen. There's another part of this rating that I'm going to add on to it that wasn't in the rating because it's not really a part of the rating. It's just something that kind of made me semi-uncomfortable, I guess. I don't know. Just something that I thought you guys would like to know about that isn't in the actual rating is the partial nudity. We are seeing the character Elton John in his element, and in the comfort of his own home and the insecurities of his life. And so basically there's a lot of scenes where he is partially nude, where he's in a robe and only in his undergarments. If you're made uncomfortable or don't feel comfortable watching something like that, then you probably shouldn't watch this movie, because there's a few scenes that happen within the movie itself that reveals parts of a person's body that is usually only revealed in the privacy of their own home. So I'm gonna fill up the frequency chart and rate this movie's rating on a frequency of 1 to 10 on how frequent these elements were that I just described to you that they were in this movie. And I'm gonna say they're about a 10 just because of the language, which happens a lot because that's just how people in the 80s and even now speak, just with a lot of language. And also because of the drug use, because that was such a prominent part in Elton John's life. Lastly, for this first part of the video, I'm going to pull out my magical scale of movies where I've rated a movie on a scale of Lego Movie 2 to Deadpool on how appropriate this movie is for younger audiences. And I'm actually going to change up this chart. I'm going to switch out, and actually I'm going to change up this chart. I'm going to switch out 12 Strong and put in A Star Is Born in its place for 9. That being said, Rocketman is rated a 9, which is what A Star Is Born is. So if you've seen A Star Is Born, then you'll get a kind of a sense of what's going to happen in Rocketman in terms of the rating of the movie. Now, obviously there are fluctuations and things like it's not as bad in one movie as it is in another, but still, it's just kind of a general reference for you guys to know, and if this helps you, great. If it doesn't, I'm sorry. Now we're doing the fun stuff, where I actually review the movie without giving anything away in terms of plot. Since Rocketman follows the life of a celebrity figure, you can kind of guess where the plot is going in terms of structure. Like there's the initial introducing to the character and their childhood, and then there's the height of their career, and then what brings it down, and then what brings it back up, and the solution to everything. Rocketman doesn't start out like that, actually. It's really interesting how they did things. I'm trying not to give anything away, but they tell it in a way that is really interesting, and the storytelling aspect of it is a new take on biopics and how they're represented in entertainment right now. Because most of the time we get kind of bored of the regular plot structure that happens for these biopics, and it just kind of gets a little bit weirder, and the only thing that changes is the content. The only thing that, and the plot structure doesn't change, and so we get kind of bored, but Rocketman pulls it off in a way that is different. The costuming was spectacular. I mean, how do you not get costumes right when you have somebody as iconic as Elton John? I will say that Jamie Bell and Taron Egerton did a fantastic job performing these roles that they were put into. Their performances really stuck out to me in a positive way, just because of how interesting and nuanced their characters were, and I could understand what they were thinking about and how their relationship was based on what was shown on screen. I will reveal this about the movie itself, that it doesn't give away the plot, but it surprised me when I walked into the theater. It had kind of a Mamma Mia vibe to it, and less of a Bohemian Rhapsody vibe. As my one Bohemian Rhapsody reference, like, that's the only thing. Where in Bohemian Rhapsody, the music performances are performances, but in Rocketman, they're actually musical numbers. It's kind of interesting, and and it's a new take on things, and it made things a little bit more exciting. It took a few musical numbers for me to get used to it, but they used those musical numbers to replace montages and transitions, and it made the transitions really smooth from one scene into another, and from one part of his life into another. I'm not sure how accurate all of the music choices were in accordance to his life story, but I'm hoping that they're at least somewhat cohesive. Along with that, I'm not sure how well the actual people were portrayed, because this is a biography picture. You need a villain, so you make somebody look worse than they actually are, or something like that. So I'm not sure how accurate these side characters were portrayed, but they did a great job. Like, there was no side character that I really just genuinely hated because they were a bad actor or they put on a bad performance. So, question for this week is, which 80s celebrity do you think that will be portrayed next in a biopic? We've already done Freddie Mercury from Queen, and now Elton John has been done, so who do you think is gonna get their own time to shine next? Let me know in the comments down below. While you're down there in the description box, there are 3 buttons that you should click. Could push the like button so that I can, beat the YouTube algorithm, the subscribe button so that you can see more of my videos, and then ring that bell so that you are one of the first people to get a notification of when I upload another video. One last question for you guys, and I'll probably put a poll on Twitter and Instagram, but do you guys think I should keep the first portion of my non-spoiler reviews? If you have any thoughts about that, tag that onto your answer to my question of the week. As always, thank you guys so much for watching. Have a great random Thursday. I will see you on the other side of the screen. Bye!